The isolation that we're finding ourselves in, the quarantine, is forcing us to be with ourselves, of course with our family, but with ourselves. To some, or to many, this is going to be a very hard adjustment. We're not so comfortable with ourselves. And to the degree that we're not comfortable with ourselves, we are also not comfortable with others. So whatever problems we're having with others is a reflection of our discomfort someplace within ourselves with our own skin. Jewishly speaking, the same is true. Part of the misery of golus, of exile, is that we're not comfortable with ourselves as Jews, our place in the world, and so on. So let's take a look at an amazing yet simple story in the Torah, in the Navi, in the prophet. This is a story of a woman who came to the prophet Elisha. Elisha was the prime pupil of Eliyahu, the prophet of Elijah. And he was the prophet of the generation after Eliyahu. And the Torah records a number of miraculous things that Elisha did, showing his authority over nature. Of course, Eliyahu, his teacher, his master, had performed great miracles, but Elisha's miracles were even greater. So one of the stories is as follows. One woman who was a wife of a student prophet, because Elisha had a school, he ran a school to teach prophecy. You had to prepare for prophecy. It didn't just come spontaneously. So there was a school where people studied to prepare for prophecy. Some became prophets and some did not, depending on whether God chose them. This woman was married to the prophet Ovadia. The prophet Ovadia passed away at a young age. It was in a time when Israel was besieged by its enemies. There was terrible poverty and hunger in the country. And Ovadia passed away young, leaving bills, unpaid bills. The loan shark, from who he had taken a loan, was coming to collect his debt, and there was nothing to pay him with. So he was demanding that the widow's children, Ovadia's children, should sell themselves into slavery to him to repay the debt. So here's how the story is written in the Torah. One woman, the wife of a student prophet, cried to Elisha. And she said, "Your servant, my husband, has died. And you know that he was God-fearing. And the collector is coming to take my children as slaves." Elisha says to her, "What can I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" She had already sold everything of any value. And she said, "I have nothing in the house except a pitcher of oil, or an oil pitcher." Elisha said to her, "Go and borrow empty vessels from all your neighbors. Get as many as you can. you'll come back to your house with all these vessels, and you will lock the door, and you will pour from your oil pitcher into all the empty vessels you've borrowed. Miraculously, the oil is going to flow. And this is olive oil, not crude oil. It's going to flow from the pitcher until all the vessels will be filled. So she goes and she borrows the vessels and she brings them home and she closes the door. And her children are handing her the vessels and she is pouring the oil from the pitcher. And when all the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Hand me another vessel." And the son said that we have no more vessels. And the oil stopped. Of course, she then sold the oil and paid her bills and lived comfortably on what was left over. Going over the story just with a little commentary. She comes to Elisha, the holiest man of the generation, because she has a financial problem, a debt that she can't pay. Elisha is not offended. He's not surprised by the visit, even though he is a prophet and a teacher, a mystical, holy, spiritual person. And this woman is coming to him with financial problems. He accepted. A holy Jewish leader does not dismiss another person's physical needs. Now, obviously, she's asking him for a miracle because he has no money. Nobody has money. She's asking him to perform a miracle. And he says, "What do you have in the house?" That's because when a person does perform a miracle, you try to minimize the disruption of nature. Since nature is God's design, it's there for a reason, for a purpose. So to disrupt it is like playing with fire. So even when they do perform a miracle, they try to minimize the disruption of nature. So Elisha says, "Give me something that you have that I can work with. But to make money appear out of the air, that's too much of a violation of nature." So let's start with something that already exists. She says, "I have nothing in the house except a pitcher of oil." He says, "Okay, then the oil will have to be the miracle. The pitcher will have to become a well of oil. So go out and borrow vessels, empty vessels, as many as you can, and you will pour into all of those vessels from your oil pitcher. Then you should close the door before you start." Why is that important? Because a miracle is a holy event, and holiness demands privacy, modesty. Again, you don't want the miracle to be a greater disruption of nature than is absolutely necessary. And if people see the miracle or hear about the miracle, it disrupts nature more than is necessary. So keep it private. Now, of course, a miracle like the splitting of the sea was meant to be public. But a miracle that occurs to an individual, it's best to keep it private, at least till after the fact. So she goes and she borrows the vessels and she closes the door. Her children are handing her the vessels and she's pouring. Then she says, "Hand me another vessel." And the son says, "We don't have any more vessels." And the oil stops. What is the Torah telling us? That the oil would not have stopped even though the vessels were full. What caused the oil to stop? Somebody said, her son said, "We can't handle any more of this blessing. We have no more vessels." When you can't handle anymore, that stops the miracle. Otherwise, the miracle can go on indefinitely. So she sells the oil and she pays her bills, and she and her children live on the profits that are left. That's the simple story. A woman lived a long time ago. She had a problem, her problem, not my problem. And Elisha was able to help her. Now, if we add a little bit of Hasidic insight, look what happens to the story. One woman is referring to the godly soul, because the godly soul in its relationship to God is like the wife. God is the husband and we are the wife. The godly soul, of course, is one with God, not like the animal soul. So when the Torah says one woman, it means the soul that is one with God, the soul of oneness, that is the godly soul. When it marries a minor prophet, meaning when the soul comes down to earth and becomes like a minor prophet, because it senses God's will, but can't really express it the way a real prophet can. So he's a minor prophet, every soul. But when it comes down into this world and becomes a minor prophet, it cries. It goes into shock. Who does it cry to? It cries to Elisha. Elisha, if you break it into two words, means my God who responds. Shah means respond. So every soul, when it comes down into a body, cries to God about what? My husband, your servant, can be understood as serving you with a godly fire. Because the word for husband, my husband, is ishi. That's the word ish with two yuds. So it's a godly fire. What is a godly fire? Love. So the soul says, now that I'm in a body with an animal soul, my serving you with love has died. Because the love of the animal soul kind of muddies up my love. So I don't know if I'm loving God, am I loving myself? Am I loving the reward that I'm anticipating? It's messed up. It's not pure anymore. Also, serving you used to be with fear. In heaven, the soul experiences love of God and fear of God, pure and holy. But now the love is gone, and my fear that used to be is no more. What's even worse is that the love and fear, which are the children of the soul, the collector, the Yetzer Hara, wants them to be his slaves. He wants all my love to be selfish. He wants all my fear to be selfish. So what is the soul crying about? The soul is saying, in heaven I had godly talents, godly abilities. Now I don't have them. What am I supposed to do? Yes, I can still do a mitzvah, but I've got nothing to put into the mitzvah. No love, no fear. So I can't fill the mitzvah with kavanah, with intention, with any value. So doing the mitzvah is going to be like an empty vessel, like a body without a soul. God says to the soul, so what do you have left in the house? The love is gone and the fear is gone. Well, you have 10 faculties. What about the other 8? And the soul says they're all gone. For every holy trait, there's an equal and opposite unholy trait. So it's all compromised, it's all messed up. The only thing left is the oil pitcher. Oil in a pitcher. That represents the soul in a body. Why is the soul referred to as oil? The body can be compared to a pitcher because a pitcher is a container, and the body is the container for the soul. But why is the soul compared to oil? So we find that there are 3 liquids: water, wine, and oil in nature. The difference is water is obvious, it's everywhere, it's visible, it's available, and it's essential to life. You can't live without it. Wine is not everywhere and it's not visible. It's not essential to life. It's hidden in the grape. And to get the wine, you have to squeeze the grapes. Then there's oil in the olive. The oil in the olive is much more hidden, much more unavailable, because to squeeze oil out of an olive is really, really difficult. You can't do it by hand or foot. The same is true with Torah. We find in different places where Torah is described as water, ein mayim ela Torah. Just like water is essential to life, it's everywhere, everyone can see it, everybody knows it. Same is true with Torah in its revealed and literal meaning. Everybody knows. Everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve and the exodus from Egypt and the splitting of the sea and the 10 commandments. It's everywhere, and without it we couldn't have civilization. That's the water part of Torah. Then there's the wine of Torah, the deeper meaning, the inner intentions, the insights. That's not so obvious, not so visible. It's hidden, and it takes some effort to dig it out. So you have to dig deep and study deep in order to find it. And then there's the oil of Torah, which is the essence. Oil is like essential oil. It is the essence of the thing, the essence of Torah. The same is true with the soul. In your soul, you have the water, the wine, and the oil. The water is the visible, obvious parts of the soul. It thinks, it feels, it functions, it speaks, it communicates. Then there's the wine, and that is your intentions, the love, the fear, the conviction, the understanding, the devotion. Those things are not so visible, and they take a lot of effort to get to. Then there's the oil. The oil is the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul means what you are essentially. In other words, the fact that you're a Jew. The fact that the soul is Jewish. That is the deepest part of the soul. Its very core, its very identity. So now, this soul comes down into a body, and the soul is crying, I've lost my wine. Yes, I can still do the mitzvah. The water part I can still do. Everyone can do it. But I don't have any wine to fill the mitzvah with. A mitzvah should be filled with love, with fear, with awe. But I don't have it. It's gone. And the soul should cry. It is a loss. But God says to the soul, I know. Of course, you're going to lose the wine. You're going to lose the love and fear as you come into this world. I knew that was going to happen, and it's okay. Instead of filling the mitzvah with your love and your fear, which is human and tiny, pour your oil into the mitzvah. Do the mitzvah that feels like an empty vessel because you have no love and fear. It feels like you're borrowing it from a stranger. It's not even yours. It's a foreign thing. You put on tefillin. What in the world are you doing? You light a Shabbos candle. You've got electric lights. You don't need a candle. So God says, now, it's not the love and the fear that I'm looking for. I want the oil. The oil means when you do a mitzvah, do it because you're a Jew. Why do you put on tefillin? Because you're a Jew. Why do you go to the mikveh? Because you're a Jew. Why do you light a Shabbos candle? Because you're a Jew. That's who I am. It's not what I love and fear. It's what I am. So God is saying, pour yourself into the mitzvah. I don't need your love or your fear. What I want is you. So put yourself into the mitzvah. Give yourself to me. In our history, we have had endless experiences of self-sacrifice, where people who would refuse to give up their Jewish identities at the cost of their lives. Our history books are full. During the Spanish Inquisition, in the times of the Romans, throughout history, even most recently, this indestructible Jewishness of a Jew who maybe didn't love God and didn't fear God, but to stop being Jewish was unthinkable. Daniel Pearl, for example, they were going to kill him. And his last words were, my parents are Jewish, I'm Jewish. That's what came to the surface in the last minutes of his life. Should anyone doubt who I am, I'm telling you, my father's Jewish, my mother's Jewish, I'm Jewish. So when the simple Jew, the unlettered Jew, does a mitzvah, he doesn't know about all the small print, all the scholarly works and thoughts, all the kavanah and intentions that you're supposed to have. All he knows is, I am a Jew, this is what a Jew does. So when he does the mitzvah, it's himself that he's putting into the mitzvah, because he has nothing else. So God says to the soul, even if you had love and fear and wisdom and understanding and appreciation of the holiness and spirituality and the godliness of it, that's not really what I want. I just want you, like the simple Jew who does a mitzvah because that's me. So when you do the mitzvah for, God says, when you do the mitzvah for me, all I want in that mitzvah is you. Put yourself into my mitzvah and we become one. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because we seem to be going through that experience today. God seems to be saying, you've lost sight of who you are. You don't appreciate who you are. You're not comfortable with yourself. And that's why, to some degree, you're not comfortable with your family, with those closest to you. Well, all I really want is you. So no parties, no traveling, no going, no tumult, no dramatic scenes, just you. Stay home and be you. Get comfortable being you, because that's all that matters to me, is that it's you. So when you do a mitzvah, don't do it because it's what the community expects. Don't do it because everybody's looking. Don't do it to fit in with the community. I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't even need your love and your fear. I just want your oil. Do the mitzvah as if your entire identity depends on it. You would never bow to an idol. You would never convert to another religion. Why? Because you love God? No, because you're hopelessly Jewish. You're essentially Jewish. It is your essence. And that's what you put into a mitzvah when you do the mitzvah. If we think about this, we can gain a lot during this time of quarantine and isolation. Get comfortable with you, because that's all that God wants. You is awesome. You are awesome. The you is awesome in God's eyes. God wants a relationship with you, and intimacy in a relationship means this is me and I'm giving it to you. Here is me for you. God does that when he gives us the Torah. God said at the giving of the Torah, you know what this is? Not a book, not a Bible. This is me bearing my soul to you. I give myself to you. And he expects that we will reciprocate and give ourselves to him. This is really something beyond the human realm. And we are now ready to take that step, to become something more than just human, to become not only a partner in creation, but to become one with God, like in a really good marriage. We merge. What you want, what I want, you want, we become one. That takes a little adjustment, but it is possible. And that's what prepares us for Mashiach. So here's the punchline of the story. She sells the oil, and with the profits left over, she can feed herself and her children. The children, we said before, is a reference to love and fear. The love and fear that had become contaminated, spoiled, muddied by the love and fear of the animal soul or the Yetzer Hara. Now, after pouring your oil into the mitzvah, now your love and your fear will blossom. You see, if you love me, but we're not really married, that's nice, because everybody loves love. but it doesn't bond us. So if we're not married, your love doesn't really mean much as far as intimacy is concerned. Yes, we all love being loved and we all love loving, but that's rather impersonal. Anyone who would love me, I would love them back. And anyone I love, I want them to love me back. But when you pour your oil into the mitzvah, if you are mine, now your love and your fear become so much more meaningful. So God is saying, I don't need love, but if you're mine, then your love I do need. If you're mine, then every part of you suddenly becomes infinitely valuable. But first be mine. Then every talent you have will become wonderful. So instead of saying, I love you, you say, you, because you're mine, you I love. That's a completely different love. That's a completely different bonding agent. That brings us together. But if I love you, that's what I do. That's what I want. And if I can't get it from you, I'll get it from someone else. Common everyday experience. If I can't get it from you, I'll get it from someone else. But that's because I never wanted you. I just wanted the love. God is saying, I don't want love. I want you, and therefore your love. This is something we need to really re-experience. So you see the story in the Torah about a woman who happened to be married to a prophet whose name was Ovadia, who had debts. All of a sudden, it's not about some strange woman who lived a long time ago. It's suddenly about me, my soul, my place on earth, what I'm doing here. And how do we respond to that? You now have time. Get comfortable with your Jewish skin. Settle down. You're a Jew. That's everything. That's your whole essence. That's why you're here. That's what you're here for. That's what you are. That's what God wants. That's your relationship with God. It's everything. The rest is commentary. But commentary becomes precious if it's commentary about you. Everything about you becomes precious when you are in this relationship. Now apply that to your marriage. You're not married to love, you're married to the person. You're not married to talent and beauty, you're married to the person who has beauty and has talent. But first things first. First the person, then the details. It's very different. So having learned this story a long time ago from the Alter Rebbe's interpretation and then the Rebbe's explanation of the Alter Rebbe's interpretation, now it seems that the story is particularly relevant. Let's get comfortable. It is wonderful to be a Jew because being a Jew is our very essence. Forever and ever we will be Jews. That's our soul. That's who we are. The more comfortable we get with it, the more we have to offer. If I'm comfortable with my Jewish soul, I can be a better Jew. I can give myself to God more completely, more intimately, more thoroughly, and more joyfully. Because when I'm being myself, that's the most joyful, the most pleasant, the most pleasurable experience. So let's be ourselves. You don't have to go anywhere. Don't have to prove anything. Don't need anyone's support or approval. Be yourself. Temporarily, at least, by yourself. Then, when we go back to our relationships, we will have more to offer. We will be more centered. We will have a better effect on our environment. And we will add to the holiness of the whole world because we got in touch with our own. So celebrate being a Jew. It's something we should be grateful for every day. And the more comfortable we get with it, the healthier we are. And we need to be healthy. Thank you for listening. I hope it made sense the way I presented it, so that you can actually put it to use in your family, in your conversations, in your personal feelings about yourself and God, where you belong in the world, what God needs from you, and so on. So we should have only good news, really, really good news, meaningful good news, and have a very good preparation for Pesach, and then experience the true freedom and liberation from everything artificial, from everything superficial, from everything foreign that impinges on who we are.